I am Anne, married for 3 years with my kind husband. We were very close, but we didn't have children yet. We were both looking forward to the weekend we would spend together, at least until the accident happened. Please listen to this unbelievable. My husband was kind to everyone, not just me. My parents also adored him as well. I have a sister who is a career woman. My husband got along with my sister, only interested in work. But suddenly, his work became he started coming home late and he was working on his days off. He seemed to have been put in charge of the team, and he wouldn't let go of his phone because he was always on it with these people. Looking back, people would have said that it was a suspicious, but I didn't suspect anything and just worried about my husband's health. Then my sister, who had been living on her own in an apartment, decided to move out due to her new job. She wanted to look for furniture that fit her new home, so I decided to take the shop in my car. On the day of the shopping trip, which was Saturday, I got called by my boss to come into my office. This was the only day off for my sister. As I was pondering what to do, it occurred to me that my husband had his camera with him. My husband has been busy with work, but I decided to ask him to cover for me. Seeing the trouble I was in, he said he would be fine with it.
He said, alone with your sister. It's a little awkward, but it's all right. My car is being repaired now, so car borrow yours?
It was the first time for my husband and my sister to go out alone together. I wondered if they were doing well, had found the right furniture, and when I finished taking care of everything at work, it was already dark. So I called my husband and sister to join us for dinner. That's when I received a call from an unknown number.
Hello, am I speaking to John as family member?
It was a stranger. Yes, I'm his wife.
This is the police. Your husband has been in an accident.
The man, who identified himself as an officer, informed me that the car I was driving had been involved in an accident and that he and his female passenger were unharmed. I don't remember what I did when I heard the news, but I remember rushing to the hospital. I told the emergency receptionist my name and was taken to the IQ. I could see through the glass window that my husband was connected to various tubes wrapped in bandages. I was anxious about what was going to happen. My mother, who lived far away, eventually arrived, and we spent a night together. In the midst of our anxiety, he told us about the accident in detail. He told me that John had been driving on a straight road with clear visibility when he collided with a car that ran through a red light. The other driver was seriously injured and was being treated at the same hospital. However, the driver testified that the car had been acting strangely before the accident, and the police are investigating the possibility that the husband had been drinking. Within a few days, my husband and S regained consciousness, and the doc some tests. Still, my mother and I were happy that we were alive, and we thought they would be able to, some extent, through rehabilitation. Of course, we didn't tell them about the possibility of their disabilities. My mother and I only told them positive things and took care of them both. My mother took care of my sister and I looked after my husband. At first, my husband was in a state from the accident. He was not feeling so well, and he was concerned about the trouble he had caused me, my mother, and my sister. But as time went by, my husband, who had been kind to me, began to gradually. He was frustrated with his leg, that move easily. The hospital treatment fact that he had to quit his job, which seemed to get on his nerves. Still, I went to the hospital because of how he felt and wanted to support him. One day, a police detective came to the hospital. It seemed that the brake oil in was involved in the accident had leaked, so I might have had an accident soon. He said that might be the reason why he was acting strangely before the accident. The woman who crashed into my car was not doing well. Her mother came to apologize. It was the first time that I met her. Since then, I felt that my husband on me increased. He was angry because he couldn't move while I could. He also seemed annoyed that I had been in the hospital for a short time because of my work schedule. He constantly ordered me around, and his anger towards me when I didn't do what he wanted. He threw things at me, complained at hospital room, and even complained when out to buy my own lunch. The demands were getting worse, and I certainly felt sorry for him, but I had to work to make ends meet. There were many things I had to do, such as contacting the police and communicating with the hospital. I don't even have time to grieve. My husband's attitude was getting unbearable. I could see that I was being driven corner. My sister seemed to be in a similar mind, and my mother became more and exhausted. I heard that my sister's demands on mother, who had no work, were even. When I couldn't go to the hospital, husband and my sister seemed to have that they would remain paralyzed, the rehabilitation. Then there was the fact that my car oil had been leaking.
My sister said, "Hey, I heard your car is leaking oil. You should be responsible for your car's maintenance. I can't work and I can't get my body back to normal because of it. Mom looks irritated and so does your dad. You are responsible for taking care of me and your husband for the rest of life."
My sister blamed me so hard that I surprised and called my mother, who that my sister had been in this men condition for a long time. My mother told me that she was going to the hospital. Still concerned about my husband, I went to the hospital. When I didn't see him in the hospital, I found him with my sister in the IQ. The visiting hours were almost over. We're sitting along together in the empty common room.
Hey, I heard that if only you had taken the car in for inspection, all this might not have happened.
My husband was glaring at me.
Yeah, but
You're the reason why your sister I are in this mess. The insurance will pay for it. And you're going to have to take care one the rest of our lives. Remember that.
As soon as I heard those words, something snapped inside me.
since when are you so close to my sister?
What you mean? You don't come over often. And your mom texted your sister to say that she can come for a while.
Since we cannot leave this place, nor can we walk, what is wrong with your husband?
My husband and my sister seemed to be ganging up on me.
I know, right? I was being sarcastic. You guys hadn't seen each other for a long time before the day of the accident.
What are you talking about? I'm talking about you taking care of us that.
My husband was ignoring my question. My sister didn't even look at me, but nodded when my husband said that he would take care of them both for the rest of their lives. I didn't expect to get an answer, blew on asking anyway, hoping that they understand how I was feeling.
I wonder if the person whose car hit you is getting better now, I said.
Shit, I know.
She ran into us when the traffic light was red. It's unbelievable!
That's right. It was terrifying. We really need to make sure we can get some compensation from her. And I was so close to getting a promotion too.
If I hadn't cut in, they would have been complaining. So I think it's time to tell the truth.
There's something I need to let you know.
What?
First, I had my car inspected before the accident. Secondly, I was not speeding at the time of the accident.
Did you know that the dealer should be sued if there is a leak of brake fluid? There's no way they didn't notice it.
I know, right? So, right after the accident, the police called me. They wanted to know what caused the accident, so they asked me to check my drive recorder.
But that old dash cam doesn't record any sound, and it also doesn't start recording until after the accident, so there's nothing to get from it.
I see, it's just like I thought. You know that I had gotten a new recorder.
My sister looked up in surprise.
I also installed another camera for inside the car.
Her face grew paler and paler.
Dash cams nowadays can start recording with just a slip of the car. The police contacted me and said that they had seen the data.
My husband looked confused, and my sister looked so pale that she almost collapsed.
You were up to something, correct?
I confronted her.
What? What do you mean you did something to the car?
My husband was panicking.
Oh, do you address my sister like you talk to her as if she were your girlfriend?
Oh,
My husband stopped talking, apparently panicking.
I told you earlier that a slight vibration would start the recording of many intimate scenes between the two. I was so embarrassed when the police asked me if it was my sister who was car with my husband.
The blood drained from my husband's.
You guys had been having an affair this time. You had been completely fooled by her. Not knowing what to do, my husband started blaming my sister. But Mary isn't the only one at FAR. Here, she has found a community of like-minded individuals who share her passion for science and discovery.
At that moment, the mother of the WC had crashed into my car, came to the room. I had asked her to come here.
Don't you have anything to say to...
My sister was taken aback by the sudden appearance of the small, gaunt woman.
wow. Who is this?
She's the mother of the woman who crashed into you.
She should be the one paying for all of this.
Surprised by the woman's tears, I stopped talking.
She is the mother of the woman who crashed into you. Her name is Alice. I'm sure you know she is.
Hearing the woman's name, my husband completely pale. And now my sister panicked.
What is this? Do you know the woman who was driving the car? That means she knew it was your car. She crashed into it. Who is she?
Since my husband seemed at a loss for words, I decided to tell my sister what was going on.
She was having an affair with John. He had told her that he would get a divorce soon, but he didn't. So when Alice told John she was pregnant with his child, he decided to have an abortion. After that, she couldn't get in touch with John, and she wanted to hurt me because she wanted to take revenge.
Wait, so that means
Right, you were in the wrong place, the wrong time.
I can't believe I let something like that ruin my life.
My sister groaned. The reality is that there's nothing due about it, no matter how much you scream. Also, it's not as though this happened to an entirely innocent person. I put all my feelings into my words.
Now you understand what happened. You two were having an affair behind my back, and Mary was trying to get me killed by tampering with the brake fluid of my car. But then she got in the car herself and got herself mixed up in an accident.
I am the victim here.
I was going to make an effort not to divorce you if you apologized to me and confessed everything to me during your hospitalization. But you never gave me an indication that you were sorry. On the contrary, you treated me terribly. Do you remember how we wrote our divorce papers right after we got married? I never thought I'd use them, but I submitted the paper today. So, you're no longer married. Bye.
Having said all that I needed to say, the dark and quiet hospital, I felt free, having been able to resentment that had been bottled up me. But my mother seemed to be greatly when she found out the truth. Not only was she shocked by my sister's infidelity, but she was also weighed down by the fact that she would have to take care of her physically disabled daughter alone. I've cut off my relations with John Mary, but I couldn't leave my mother to take care of everything by herself. I spoke with the person responsible for the accident, made the necessary apologies, and asked her to compensate my sister, who was involved in the accident by mistake. 2 years have passed since then. My husband and I are divorced, and I'm living on my own. Back then, John and I were considered a close couple, so the divorce came as a surprise to my coworkers. After that, more and more men approached me asking for advice. I thought it was that I was going through that phase when divorced women suddenly become appealing to men. But the image of my ex-husband remained at the back of my mind, and I couldn't bring myself to date anyone. Then I studied hard for a certification exam in order to build up my career. I even joined an online business I could join after work. When I was married, I couldn't have imagined doing something like that. I had never envied my sister, who was a career woman, and I didn't think I aspired to be one. But there was me, naturally aiming. Life is strange, I thought. Since then, my ex-husband has returned his parents' house, but he seems to be treated as a burden to his family. His relatives blamed him for his bad behavior and the way he treated me. I heard that he's not doing very well and that he has been acting violently, causing a lot of trouble to those around him. My sister also returned to her parent house, but she too became mentally continued to behave like an egoist. My mother, exhausted, used my sister's savings and the accident compensation to put her in a care home. She asked me about it beforehand, but there was no reason to oppose it, so I told him that he could do whatever she wanted. If I hadn't noticed anything, I would have been like a slave to them for the rest of my life. I shudder to think of that. I passed the certification exam I had taken and was transferred to a department where I could use my skills to good use. And I became close with the teacher running the online business school, our soon-to-be married. Not with someone who is just kind to everyone, but with someone who is VG to me. When I get home late from work, he comes back early to prepare dinner for me. I will cherish this small happiness. Such were the thoughts that I wished upon stars, and I hurried back home to find my partner waiting for me.